My name is Ward Blanchard. I'm CEO and founder of the Blanchard Institute, Human Service Professional for nearly 20 years. One of the most common conversations I have with individuals, families, and even professionals is around the disease concept of mental health and substance use disorders. Because I used to work for a family program out at a treatment center on the West Coast, and at the beginning of every family program, I'd ask all the attendees, how many of you guys think substance use disorders is a disease? And everybody would raise their hand. And I'd say, how many of you guys are raising your hand because you look like a jerk if you didn't? And half the hands would go down. And I'd say, okay, this is a safe environment. That's what we should talk about. Why don't you think this is a disease? And whatever the reasoning were, whether it was a matter of willpower or just choice, or they had an uncle that could just stop, all of the reasonings boiled down to it was human behavior. It couldn't be a disease. And so I'd say, okay, well, why don't we go with that? Why can't human behavior be a disease? Because our society has no problem accepting coronary artery disease as a disease. Our society has no problem accepting diabetes as a disease. Both of those conditions can be brought on by unhealthy human behavior. If you don't eat right and you don't exercise, your body can biologically shift and you can develop coronary artery disease. If you don't eat right and you don't exercise, your body can biologically shift and you can develop diabetes. Now, not everybody who doesn't eat right and doesn't exercise is going to develop those conditions. But those with predisposition and exposure have a higher likelihood. And the same epidemiology is true for substance use disorders. The only difference is the organ is the brain. Coronary artery disease looks like high blood pressure. Diabetes looks like a dysregulation in insulin. The dysregulation of your brain just looks like poor decisions. And so we miscategorize this as a human behavior rather than it truly being a disease. And a lot of people will argue, well, it removes responsibility, the disease concept does. I said, no, it doesn't. I said, it removes fault. It doesn't remove responsibility. And what I mean by that is this is a healthcare crisis. There's nothing about this that people want. You can probably hear the striations in my voice because when I was 18, I got diagnosed with an illness and I was given 2 years to live, and I had 87 surgeries in a period of time and a chemotherapy and radiation. I didn't want one of them. I wasn't motivated for one of them. And it wasn't my fault that my body developed that disease. But it's my responsibility to go through those surgeries. It's my responsibility to take 12 immunosuppressants every day to keep me alive. This is a disease. Treatment is uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It's costly. You have every right to be angry about it. It's unfair. This is a healthcare crisis. There's nothing about any of those surgeries or the trach and the oxygen tank I had. I didn't want one of them. But it was my responsibility to do what I have to do to recover. Same thing is true with this disease. It's not your fault you developed this disease. 10 people who have a beer, one person is going to biologically shift and develop the disease. It's not your fault that your body biologically shifted and you developed substance use disorder. And it is your responsibility to take your medicine every day. Yes, that is unfair. And like I said, this is a healthcare crisis. It doesn't remove responsibility. It just removes fault.